Hey there, it's RJ, and this is the story of my life. And there's been a lot of changes since the last video I've put up, and you've probably seen the title, so I'm not gonna. Hey there, RJ here, and this is the story of my life. And you've probably seen it in the title, so I'm not gonna bury the lead here, but I have lost my job. So today is Wednesday. It actually happened last Thursday, and honestly, last week was probably one of the worst weeks of my life in a lot of ways. And maybe it's a bit of an exaggeration. It was a rough week. Not so much just because of the fact that I lost my job, which sucks. But I'll get more into that. At the same time, about a week ago, I actually just over a week ago, I had to go and take my son to the hospital. Basically, my whole family was sick, and my oldest son, who's autistic and doesn't eat well, he started getting dehydrated. Took him to the emergency room. They ended up admitting him in the hospital, giving him fluids, and he had some low blood sugar as well. And it was just it was a massive nightmare about the whole situation. I mean, it could be worse, but it was rough. And during this whole time, I'm trying to still go and just work remotely and do what I can. So the following day after he came out of the hospital, I still had to work remotely from my home, but I was still there, did basically the whole day of work. And then the following day, I went back into the office to go to work like normal. I had a pre-scheduled meeting with my boss, who is the president of the company, or is the president of the company, and came in and he said, "Yep, this isn't working out. I need to ask for your resignation." And he gave me a choice. The way he said it was that either I can resign voluntarily, and if they did, they'd give me 2 weeks' pay on top of what I've already earned, as well as give me a reference and help me find a job, to do what they can in that regard. At least give me a warm handoff to some recruiting agencies. And if I did not voluntarily resign, then they would still fire me, but I wouldn't get the 2 weeks pay. I wouldn't get any reference letters. Wouldn't get this warm handoff, which I don't really care about the warm handoff, to be honest. Reference letters, sure, that's convenient, but the 2 weeks pay was kind of the big deal. And ultimately, this was a way that they could avoid having to go deal with any of the unemployment. It's a headache. It's expensive. So I understand what their objective was in doing that. Which also kind of goes to my belief that it's weird. I tried to think about what is the reason why I was fired. Why did they want my resignation? And ultimately, I really try to be critical of myself and try to think how I could do things better. How could I have avoided these things from happening? And yes, there were some warning signs. It was not something that's completely blindsided by. I expected something like this to be happening because there were some issues that came up before. And the best way I can come up with what actually happened was, it was more of a case that I was laid off. I was promoted to a position. It was a new position, and basically everyone had a different idea of what this position should look like, and so there was complete chaos in that regard. And if I tried to make one person happy with the way that the position should be, then other people were unhappy, and they said they weren't getting enough value from me. And so ultimately, since I couldn't make everybody happy, the best solution was to just have me leave the company so they can save the payroll expense. Which, again, from a business perspective, I get that. The timing really sucked. I mean, it really sucked. It was, again, right after my son got out of the hospital, and then the 2 days, this was on a Thursday, and it was right before the 4th of July. So, kind of put a big rain cloud over a 4th of July weekend, if that matters. But I want to talk more about how I feel about the situation, what I'm doing, and what my plans are. One of the things I've been really thinking a lot about lately, even before, again, I mentioned earlier, this is something that I expected to be happening. This isn't something that I was completely blindsided by. And so I had been thinking a lot about it. What is it that I want to be doing? Should I go look for a new job? Should I just fight and try and keep my job. And the thing that came to become so clear was that there is no such thing as job security. I did very well at this company. I was able to go and move up through the ranks in the company very quickly, take on additional responsibility, and I was able to be successful in the things that I did there. And maybe not in the most recent position I had. Again, it was a new position, and it's hard to even define what success would have been there. I did the things people wanted me to do. It just was never enough, and that's a whole separate story. So I'm going to ignore that part for now. But in the role, look, they put me in some impossible situations. Like when I was a team lead, I would be on a team which should have a total of 3 people, so 2 other people plus the team lead. We would then have only 1 person, and so I'd be having to take on the responsibilities of the second person as well as a team lead. And then on top of that, they then said, hey, we also need you to be a team lead of another team, so to actually lead 2 teams. And this was during COVID, when there's all these other challenges going on, and the other person I had on my team was someone who was very new with the company, had very little experience. She did good work, I'm not going to complain about that, but there was still just an experience gap there. And in spite of all this, I was still able to go and make things successful. I can even look back, and there are some points where they're saying, well, here's what we don't like about your performance. And if you actually look at the numbers, the things about their concerns about performance did not exist. I don't want to get too much into that. It's not about defending it. My point is, I did good work, and I could objectively show this. And it didn't matter in the end. As soon as I was not able to provide there was my belief I had before I got fired, or I shouldn't say fired, before I was asked to resign. My belief was that if something didn't work out, they would think about all the value I brought to them, and they would look for opportunities for another place to put me. That they would take me from the position I was not doing well in and put me into another position. And that's not what happened. Instead, they just decided to let me go. And this is the reason why, and this is something that I just can't live with. The reality is, with my kids and their autism, it is not really possible for both my wife and I to work at the same time, at least not full time. We have to be able to survive on one income. And if I am putting all my eggs into one basket, into the basket that is my employer, and they can go and make their decisions that make me lose all my income, this is a very bad situation for me to be in. And on top of this, it just seemed like there was always this ceiling. When I came into this new position, I tried coming and say, hey, look, I want to get some pay raise, and I was actually told, no, we're going to actually decrease your pay, and like it was just weird. Trying to actually go and make money and grow income, if I just am working for someone, it is so difficult. And one of the perks, so to speak, of working where I did is I was able to look at a lot of income for people. It's part of my job. We had to verify people's income. And I would see people who were working in different jobs. And you'd have some people that they're making fantastic money doing things like being doctors and there are a lot of people who are making very good money doing things like being doctors or pharmacists and things like that. And then you'd also have these people who were self-employed. And yes, the self-employment would be widespread. And you have people who kind of just had this little side job that they said this was their self-employment. And you had people who took it very seriously. And they said, no, this is my job, this is what I'm doing. And those people who took it very seriously, they made more money than other people did just working for a person. And then even looking back at what happened with COVID, where people are losing their jobs, there was a lot of opportunity for people who were making money through a business instead of W-2 employment, who for relief and assistance and all these other opportunities that just weren't available for W-2 employees. And when I think about what are things that are really important to me, what is it that I really want? Yes, I like money. I like being able to make money. And so far, I've come far, far short of where I actually want to be. My salary was actually about half of what I wanted to be. And again, not where, I shouldn't say where I wanted to be. It was about half of where I'd say, yes, this is a comfortable level. Not more like the bottom end of where I want to be, not the top end. And what I came to realize is that the thing I really value is I want freedom. And when I'm working for someone, when I have to go and arrive at work at a specific time and do these things, again, I get it if you have clients and you sometimes have to work around that. And you have to show up to meetings at a certain time. But you have flexibility, you have choices. If you're working with a client for your own business and the client is treating you poorly or not doing something you don't like and you don't want to work with the client anymore, you have that choice to say, hey, I don't want to work with you anymore. Now you're going to lose that income, but you probably have other clients that you can also use. If you're working with one boss, you can't really fire a boss without just having to go and find a full new job. And then just the amount of time I would be leaving for work at 7:30 in the morning. I often wouldn't be done with work until 6 o'clock. I'd go to the gym after 6 o'clock. I'm not coming home until nearly 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock, 8:30, somewhere around there. And again, a lot of this is just driving around because of where everything is located and where my job is at. But it was just such a massive time suck. Trying to go and do my own things wasn't possible because there wasn't the time available. And so I'm not saying I'm not going to be getting another job. I don't particularly want to, but if the right opportunity comes along, I'll take it on. Right now, my plan is to try and build up my own business, try and build up my own brands, try and grow this. The car I'm driving right now, it's a Chevy Bolt. I recently bought this car. The reason why I bought it is because I actually expected this to happen. And it may seem odd that I would go and buy a car before I'm expecting to get fired. But this is something I can go and drive Lyft for. Before I started working where I used to work, that's what I did. I drove Lyft, and it was a great way to be able to get some quick cash. And this being an electric car, I have reduced maintenance expense and reduced gas costs. And that's going to be a huge, huge, huge help to be able to make more money in driving Lyft. On top of that, my wife, who has been a stay-at-home mom, and she's really looking for more ways to just be around people. Again, it's very challenging parenting some autistic children. And she's going to be trying to get a part-time job at a retail store. And that's going to help get some money. And ultimately, I just got to be pushing and working hard. And what I really need to do is focus on building up my own sources of income and not relying on other people like this. I need to be able to have freedom, and if I can do this where it's all online and I'm making the money online like so many other people are, it gives us the ability to go and be wherever we want to be and not be stuck in this place where we don't want to be at, like a good geographic place. So that's the plan right now, and we will see how it goes, and I'll try and give updates as it goes along. But if you want to find out what happens, go subscribe to the channel, like these videos, leave comments, reply to your comments if you have any questions, and yeah, talk to you next time.